It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together.
One thing that caught my attention was you said, like, I didn't have an outlet. So let's even talk about that, because I know one of the things that you love that is just almost synonymous with who you are is the singing and all of that. Was there ever a time when that felt like, I won't say was there ever a time, but was it ever like a chore? Was there a time when that wasn't your joy because it was just so expected?
Yes. One of the things with depression is it causes you to not have a passion for things that you absolutely love to do. And I love singing more than anything. But if I am in a situation where depression is heavy on me, I don't want to sing. And the strange thing about it is an outlet. It does lift me. It does make me feel better. But there are times where the depression itself wouldn't allow me to reach for that. I guess I was more so reaching for people to help me through it and to talk to me about it. And but then sometimes even with singing, because I do it so much, like you said, it is expected. And then there was a season or several seasons where it's like I don't get a break. Like it's like I gotta sing, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta go here, I gotta go there. And so I don't get a break, and then eventually I get burnt out. And then on top of that, me and my therapist talked about post-event depression. So I have an event and I'm singing, and I put all my time, effort, and energy into getting prepared for the event. So now the event is over, and it's like, now what?
Okay.
Like, what do I have
so
now?
you just gave it a name that your therapist said that I haven't said that word, but I always said it felt like postpartum. Well, and not to slight anybody who's gone through postpartum.
Right.
But with me, like birthing that thing, and then feeling like you're about to die.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly like that. It's I started taking Mondays as my day of rest, because singing ministry itself takes a lot out of you. And then even going back to, like I said, from me being a kid, so I always say, like, I got it really bad because I'm a Cancer, which makes me an automatic nurturer. Like, I'm automatically a nurturer, but it also makes me sensitive. But then I'm an introvert and I'm an empath. So it's like, I'll be like, oh, I cannot function in these things like this because I'm overly sensitive. But like, just going back to a child, my dad, he tells the story all the time about, I guess I was like 2 years old, and him and my mom had a disagreement that I was unaware of the actual disagreement, but it was the energy in the house that I could always feel. And so I came and sat between them, and he says, I asked, Daddy, do you love Mama? He said, yes. Mama, do you love Daddy? She said, yes. And I just climbed down off the couch and went on about my business. But he says, in his words, he guess I was telling them, fix it. And that's what I've always been. Like, I've always been, was like the middleman or the fixer or the peacemaker. And I'm always putting forth everything and all energy and efforts into making sure everybody's good.
Right.
And so I just always thought that whenever I'm not good, everybody would band together and be like, he not good, he need us. And that's not the way that it works.
Right. And I think some of the, so many things going through here. Let me back up right here for a minute. So even when I was asking about, because there's something that keeps coming back up in my mind since we've been talking, I know there was something around it, but I cannot remember what it was. But just like my first experience with you ever that I recall, I remember you singing Now Behold the Lamb. And I think sometimes you'd be like, ooh, because everybody wanted you to sing it. But that was the first time that I recall like really feeling that there were some times younger when my siblings were this great move of God had come through, and my siblings were in it, and whenever I could go to choir practice or whatever with them, then I would feel it. But this particular time, we were at Friendship right up here on Silver Bluff Road. It was a choir anniversary, I think. And so how old were you when you were singing Now Behold the Lamb?
Probably between, because I sung it for years.
So this would have been kind of the beginning, probably, because we were at a lot of choir anniversaries together, I think.
Be like 12, maybe 13.
Okay.
12 or 13.
So I don't know how many years between us.
9.
Is it? I'm 51.
11.
Okay. So I would have been 24-ish. Oh, so I was still out there then. I wasn't like, nah. It wasn't that. So that's probably why it stands out so much. I was doing church, but I wasn't doing Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a relationship. And I remember being at that church, and I remember like it pulled me out of my seat. I remember like the presence of God was just, it's like he was coming out your mouth. And I'm going, oh God. And so while the people out here are blessed, you're singing from your gift, and yes, you know Jesus, but I bet that was a thing, like the expectation or the pull, because as a child, like you say, you know now what it feels like when you go home and you know that it's backlash, or you know that it is because you poured out. But as a kid, without the not having the words to place with this feeling, it was probably so much of the devil like, I'm about to tear this joker up because he did it again, but you're not knowing that. You're not having that information.
I was completely innocent, and I guess for lack of a better word, ignorant to all of it. And I do remember like singing different songs and being completely sad after church is over with, and going home and feeling sad and not really knowing why. Like, why am I sad? Like, I don't get it. And part of being an empath is I do feel like other people's emotions or energy. And what I had to learn later in life is basically what I was doing was absorbing it. And that's not what I'm supposed to do. Like, I can observe it and maybe help or comfort. And part of the reason why I stopped hugging or liking to hug is because I always felt like I'm hugging someone, and then all of a sudden,
they're on you.
Yep, I took on what they were dealing with, and I'm walking away now, battling with depression out of nowhere because it's not even mine. And so I had to, even as a kid, like I didn't understand any of that. Even recently, a couple of years back, my family, we went to Florida for vacation for Thanksgiving. It was my mom's side of the family. It was the whole, like mostly everybody went, and we were having an amazing time. Everybody was just having so much fun, and we went. The only place my grandma wanted to go was Disney World, so she didn't go to any of the other parks. But we went to Disney World that Thursday, and everybody was just having such a great time. She was enjoying seeing us have a great time, and I'll never forget. We had gotten into the line to ride Space Mountain. They told us that the wait was going to be 2.5 hours. Space Mountain, it's an okay ride, but it ain't, in my mind, I'm thinking like, it ain't worth. I done rode it plenty of times before. It ain't worth 2.5 hour wait. Like, but because everybody was doing it, I'm like, well, I want to do it too. I want to have fun. I'll stay in the line or whatever. But I remember we were going through the thing, and all of a sudden, this sadness just hit me, and I'm trying my best to make sure my siblings don't feel like I'm not enjoying myself, or that, you know, my cousins were there, and it's just like, what is going on? Like, why am I so sad? Why do I feel sad? Like, I should be happy. Like, I'm in Florida, I'm on vacation, I'm with my family, I'm at the Magic Kingdom. All of this should not, you know, bring on sadness. And it wasn't until after the ride was over with that I realized I was picking up from other people that were dealing with whatever sadness that they were dealing with. And that's when I was like, you know what? Let me pray about the sadness of because this one isn't mine. And so I had to start realizing what was mine and what wasn't, what wasn't mine.
And see, I think I've said it to you. I know I've said it to a goddaughter. I've probably said it to friends every time. And I know that it is from the psychological perspective, from that, they call it empath. Every time y'all talk about it, I'm like, you are intercessor. Like, because on the spiritual side, it's the same thing, different terms, but because we know how to pray, because that's who God made us, then that has to like become our default, and realize, pray and move. That's the thing. And so and because, like you said, we are becoming more knowledgeable, more aware of things in the psychological realm, mental health. Then we do see those terms, empath, and like I say, every time, like, it's the intercessor in you. It's God given. Sometimes it can feel like it's hell sent, but it is God given. And even when you were talking, and I went back to a time when, because depression is heavy in my past, and it reminded me of a time when I was in the mall with my sisters in Columbia or somewhere. We were on a sisters weekend. And I remember being like, I felt it coming. I could always feel it coming. It's almost like if you're in a long hallway and you hear footsteps in the back, like I could feel it coming. I'd be like, no. Why now? Because we're in the mall. I'm with my sisters. There's nothing wrong. And not until this moment did I, because I've always, that's the depression, because I went through a lot of it. But there were parts of the depression that wasn't even mine. And I feel like that was one of them. That was not mine. I remember trying to escape, like I could feel it coming. I'm going, no. And I remember telling, I'll be back, I'm going to the bathroom. I went in that bathroom. I was crying like a fool. I was there, we were talking earlier, how my eyes would swell up, and I'd just be like, so I tried to, okay, you got to get it together. I must have been like 18, 19. And I go back and find my sisters, and we're looking, and I'm like, I got it. Okay, I got it. And next thing I know, the tears are coming again. And I'm like, no. And back then, I didn't know to pray. I just thought I feel like that in itself is a message. Like, you ain't got to receive everything that comes your way as yours. I've learned that through knowing I'm an intercessor, that sometimes what I'm feeling has nothing to do with me, and everything about what I need to pray in that moment for somebody that could be over in China that I don't even know, or somebody who could be in the car next to me or whatever. Just learning not to take it all on, but to move through it.
And that's I had to learn that. It was hard, but I had to learn that. And even just in situations in general, like just not taking on everything that's happening. Stuff
you don't have to be the fixer.
I don't have to be the fixer. And I was really trying to, if something would happen in my family, I'm up all night because I'm like feeling sad or feeling depressed about what happened in my family, and I want to fix it. I don't know
But not talking to nobody about how you feel.
Not telling them how I feel about the situation at all.
Because you got to be strong.
Exactly. I became the strong one. And being the strong one has caused people to not know what to do with me if I'm weak. And so why be weak is what I tell myself. Like, don't be weak then. Like, don't allow them to see you weak, because they don't know what to do when and my dad, he told me, because I I went to him and I was crying and I was like, but Dad, I just want everybody to just treat me like I treat them. Like, treat my situations like I treat theirs. Like, when they need me, I drop everything. I'm there for them. I run. Like, it doesn't matter what I got going on. I'm there. I'm present. I'm in the moment with them. And then when I'm going through something, it's like they give me the bare minimum. Or don't give me anything at all. And my daddy was like, well, you're the pillar and you're the, the strong one, and they don't know how to treat you. And I'm like, I remember that if there was a conversation that I had with my dad, it was actually 2020. And that was the first time that I walked away from my daddy and I didn't feel okay. I literally cried all the way home because I'm like, he don't get it. He don't understand. And I went back to him like the next day because I was like, you don't get it. You don't understand. And he was like, I heard everything you said. I said, no, you didn't. You're not listening. Like, I feel like you're taking other people's side. I feel like you're not listening to what I'm saying or giving me what I need. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, you're being just like them. Like, you're not allowing me to express how I feel. And he was like, no, I hear exactly where you are. And he started telling me about how he is in the family and how he grew up in the family. And he was like, I'm telling you, you're like me. He said, you're wired just like me. As much as you may not like it, as much as you don't want it, you're wired just like me. And you're going to always be more to them than they are to you. And I'm like, that ain't fair.
Right.
My very first therapy session, I told my therapist what my dad said. At the end of the session, when we were getting ready to close out, she had taken notes and everything, and she said to me, I've only known you for an hour, but what your dad said is the truth. And I had to go back to him, of course, and tell him, like, my therapist told me what you said was the truth. Like, you are the strong, you're the strength. You're the piece. You're that piece of the puzzle that makes everybody else okay. And I'm like, but what do I do when I'm not okay? Like, where do I get my strength from when I'm not okay? And people don't know, because I think the term that my dad used was like, they don't know how to check on you. Well, in my mind, I'm like,
some cuss words.
Hey. Because it's
sorry,
like,
I know that was loud.
How don't you know?
Right.
Like,
right.
You gotta know. And one of my uncles said one time before, it was just like, I didn't know you was experiencing anything because you always look like you're good. You always look like you got it together. And that's what my friends be saying. Well, you always look strong. I didn't know. But I'm like, I was trying to tell you, but you weren't listening. You didn't give me the moment that I needed to actually express to you or be vulnerable. So now I'm shutting it off because you won't give me that opportunity to do that. And so going to therapy was one of the things that gave me the outlet for even when singing ain't working. And even when I'm praying and saying, Lord, please just let me get out of this depression. Please, God, I'm praying. Well, I was about to say I'm fasting. Sometimes I do fast. Oh, but just asking God, like, please deliver me from this situation. But in my mind, I always go back to what my dad says. Well, what our pastor, our bishop says, is that deliverance isn't that it goes away. It's what you do with it when it returns. Right. So depression is my thing. And I can be delivered from it, but it doesn't mean that it goes away. It's going to keep coming back. It's just what I do with it when it comes back and when it returns. And like, sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. But even when I lose, I win.
Right. You lose. What do you lose and you learn? Like, it's a lesson. Yeah. But there's not a loss.
Yeah.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, always a lesson. And I guess I've learned to just kind of put myself in more winning situations as it relates to depression. And I feel like therapy has helped me with that. And I know a lot of people, especially in our culture, is like, why I gotta go sit and talk to somebody about my problems, because that's making it seem like I'm crazy. That's making it seem like I'm, dealing with this, that, and the third or whatever. And I was watching an episode of Generations, which is the show that CeCe Winans does. And she was on there with her sisters and her daughter, and they were talking about, how everything we need is in the Word, and how everything we need is in the Word. And they had a trauma therapist on there, Dr. Anita Phillips, which I follow on Instagram because she's just great.
She bad.
Yeah, she is. And what she said stuck with me, because in the church, we are just taught, pray it away, pray it away, pray it away. And what she said was, every army that goes to battle with their weapons, but they also develop a strategy on what the war looks like to them. And so what she said was, prayer is a weapon, but therapy is a strategy. And so we can have Jesus and therapy. And people don't realize that. They think if I'm going to therapy, I don't have faith, or I don't have enough faith to be like, I can be delivered from this, or this cannot bother me. But this is literally giving me the tools on how I can do better with the depression when it comes. Because like you said, singing is my thing. It's what I love to do. It's what I've always loved to do. But if the depression is setting on me to the place where I don't want to do something that I love, like singing I'm not going to reach for it. I'm not going to do it. Or either I'm going to sing and it will have zero effect on me as far as it goes or whatever. And I mean, I've been singing my entire life, so I know how to sing and look like I feel it versus actually singing and feeling it, And so, like you said earlier, we become great actors. We do. And my thing is, when I stop being included in things, when I stop being invited to stuff, when I stop being a part of stuff, when people stop like really checking on me, it's back to that whole thing. And
I ain't laughing at you. I'm laughing because I relate.
Right. But it's like, what's wrong with me? Like, and I go back to that. What's wrong with me? Like, why can't I be included? And I really feel like people don't understand how it feels to be excluded if they're always included, and like you don't know what it feels like to be left out. You don't know what it feels like to feel like you're on the outside looking in of circles that you were once a part of, or family events or functions, and you didn't know anything about them. And so people just start saying, well we didn't tell you because it was da 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 da, or it was XYZ, and and it's just like, all right, I understand all of that or whatever. And I became the person who's just like, I understand to everything. And if you can ask anybody, they feel like I am one of the most understanding people they know, because I'm going to always just say, I get it. I understand. Even when I don't, I'm going to say, I get it. I understand, because I don't want confrontation. I don't want to deal with it, because if we have confrontation, you're not going to listen to my feelings.
And that's going to frustrate you even more. So you just take it like, One of the things that I remember, it's been years ago, but I just remember my phone, like every time it would ring, it was somebody needing something. Somebody, either they wanted prayer, or they wanted me to do something, or they wanted to ask me something. And I remember like one day going, oh my gosh, like I remember sitting at my desk like, dang, people keep calling. And then I remember the phone rang, and it was somebody who didn't usually need anything. And it was like, hey, and it was like, Marcy, I got it. And I'm going, and I really wanted to scream. And when I hung up the phone, I'm like, God, this ain't even fair. Like, this is not fair. Nobody's calling to check on me. Everybody wants something. Everybody wants something, and this ain't fair. And blah. And I was really going like, when is somebody gonna check on me? Nobody don't. And he's like, he lets you have your tantrum, and then he's like, but you do have it. You do have it. It may not be as many people as are pulling on you, but I done gave you one or two. It's up to you to use them. And so many times, even now, we want it from certain people who ain't even, that's the day that the Lord said, you're talking about not fair. It's not fair for you to expect them to do something for you that they're not equipped to do. And I'm like, what you mean they ain't equipped equipped. I see him doing it for somebody else. And he's like, but not for you. They can't carry you.
Absolutely.
They can't, that's not who I made them to you. And for you to expect that from them, and it's still difficult to process through, but I know I heard him. For you to expect that from them is unfair to them. And I'm sitting here going, well, really right now, I don't care about that. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, this ain't fair. And so it makes it so that, because some of the stuff that we mad at people about, God doing it.
Yeah.
To keep us safe, to keep us where he wants to use us. And that different thing, oh, it still ain't fun.
No. No.
But it's him. Yeah. It is not fun. It's almost like, darn, can all the different people get together? He won't even let us. Not like that, because he needs us in a certain place. He needs to, and if we mix and mingle and get so there, we can't be who he's called us to be.
Absolutely.
This is a question that I would probably normally pose at the end, but I heard it a little while ago. It's a couple of them I heard. There was one time earlier when you said it was, I guess I was so innocent or maybe ignorant. What's the difference? What would you say? And it's funny because that's one of the questions that I had in this thing I had written, was like, what's the difference between innocence and ignorance?
Honestly, I feel like they're kind of very close, related. But I think with innocence, it was because I was a child. And ignorant, I think, wasn't my doing or my fault. It was, my parents also didn't have the tools. Our culture didn't have the tools to point out and be like, you know what, he's depressed. Like, that's what that is. Because it wasn't until later years that my dad even realized what he was experiencing was depression. And some of my aunts and uncles had depression, and my great-grandmothers had depression. And like, it wasn't until he got older that he realized what that was. And he could point it out. Like, once I was a teenager and once I was like in my 20s, he knew what was going on, because then he's seen it before and he knows what it is. But the ignorance wasn't even on my part. It was just simply because the culture, our culture, didn't know any better.
So it's like no access. You didn't have access to the information, and that's where the ignorance would be. So then, another question. If your walls could talk, what would they tell us on your behalf?
They would probably say that he tries really, really hard, even when he feels depressed, that he tries really hard to not be.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169, or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.